there are some things you should know about the fourth secret novel by Brandon Sanderson before you read it. The first one being that this novel is for Cosmere fans. This is a story for people who have been in the world of the Cosmere, the interconnected planets in the universe that Sanderson has created. Whereas the first three can be enjoyed perfectly well without a knowledge of the Cosmere or having read any other books by Sanderson, this one, some previous reading in the Cosmere is almost required. Tress of the Emerald Sea and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter have some Cosmere elements. There are characters and some magic systems from other worlds present, but if you don't know about those, you still enjoy a good story. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook isn't even part of the Cosmere, it's its own thing. This one, The Sunlit Man, is for the Sanderson audience. Before reading this one, you will want to have at least read the Stormlight Archive. There will just be too many references for it to make sense without that previous knowledge of that world. Some knowledge of the Mistborn world on Scadrial would also be good. And the Nightmare world, Threnody, I think it's called, the one with the forest. I haven't read everything in the Cosmere, but I read enough that I was able to enjoy The Sunlit Man. Not saying you have to read every Sanderson book in the Cosmere to read this one, but at least a couple of the main series would be good. And the other thing to know before going into The Sunlit Man is that it is set in the Cosmere's future, in which case it could feel a little spoilery. It doesn't have big plot point spoilers, but it takes place at least decades after the current Stormlight Archive installment and what feels like centuries in the future of Scadrial, the Mistborn world. And the main character is a character you will recognize from a previous story. So to me, it felt like a character arc spoiler. And in some ways, because it was set so far in the future, the way that technology has progressed, I don't know, that little glimpse into the future, taking place after books that haven't even been written yet, I'm not sure that I would have read it yet. I can't say that for sure because I'll be getting the book in the mail in just a couple of days, and once it arrives, it might have been hard not to read. But I am arming you with this knowledge in case that affects whether you read The Sunlit Man now, as soon as it comes out and is available for sale, or if you want to wait on it a little bit. At least maybe until after the 5th Stormlight book is out. You don't have to. But now you know. This story does take place on a new Cosmere world, and it starts action heavy and stays action heavy. It doesn't really slow down at any point. Sanderson is good at pacing, so it's not just breakneck pace the whole time. There's little dips. There's little bits of character building, little bits of introspection that don't last long, but they are poignant and make you really feel for the character. The main character, Nomad, is obviously a world hopper. He has just arrived on this new world, Canticle, and he and his companion are on the run from a group called the Night Brigade. At one point, Nomad had held a great amount of power, which he doesn't have anymore. But if you know your Cosmere lore, you know that there's this thing called connection, because Nomad used to have this big power. Even though he doesn't anymore, he still has some connection to it, and the Night Brigade wants him to find the thing they are after. So they are chasing Nomad. Nomad has this ability called skipping, which as a world hopper seems really handy. He can use investiture to basically teleport, transport to another of the Cosmere worlds. No Shadesmar necessary. And the magic is a little more sciencey in this one. Nomad is measuring his investiture in units of breaths, so having read Warbreaker might be helpful, but not necessary. As Nomad and his companion talk about their breath units, you kind of get the idea of what it means. It's just a measurement. And from the moment that he skips to the world of Canticle, the action has begun. It starts with him waking up among the condemned, and there's these fast-growing plants that are growing in front of his eyes. It does have one of those things that Sanderson is very good at, which is a weird and interesting and unique world. The reason these plants have to grow so fast is because the sun destroys everything in its path. Sunrise is danger. And the entire population of Canticle, they're a population of hovering cities. They have hover technology, and they have to stay in front of the sunrise at all times. If anything happens to where they get delayed and they can't keep ahead of that destructive light, game over. Death and destruction. That element adds a lot to the action and to the breakneck speed at which things must progress because they have to stay in front of the light. And some of the people have glowing stones in their chest instead of hearts. And the magic system on this world is wrapped up in those hearts and the sunlight that charges them, and physical touch. The plot is styled kind of after an old Western style story where the lone wanderer, Nomad, gets caught up in the local trouble. He tries to help them solve their problem, tries not to let his heart get involved because he knows that because he's on the run, he's not going to be able to stay. He needs to be able to get in, survive long enough to charge up his investiture for another skip to keep ahead of the Night Brigade. And so he tries to keep his emotions separate. That can be hard to do. This is the only one of the 4 secret projects that does not have a romance element. So while Nomad is struggling trying not to let his heart get involved, it's not because of a romantic entanglement. He just finds it hard not to start caring for this people that he's been thrown in with and is trying to help. And as you are reading this book, little clues are dropped as to which character this is from a previous Cosmere story. I felt like it became obvious pretty quick. I didn't feel like the big reveal of who it was because of which character it was, but more why he is here instead of back on the previous world where we knew him from before. And so knowing who it is and seeing what his life is like now is a little heartbreaking. That's the part that I felt like was kind of a character arc spoiler, because I didn't want to know that this particular character had suffered so much, had given up on some of his previous life, some of his previous vows. The things that he said he stood for and cared for are now part of his past. He's on the run, he's beaten down. To a certain extent, he has just given up on who he used to be. But the person that he used to be is the part of him that's being called on to help these people on Canticle. I hope I'm saying that right. I've only ever seen it in print. Canticle. Canticly? Cantisol? I hope it's Canticle. This book feels like a Cosmere story. It feels like a story given to us by Sanderson, which was his intent. He wrote a story specifically for Cosmere fans. You know, have you ever had that feeling where somebody gives you a gift and you look at it and you go, this is what you thought I wanted? I felt that way a little bit because of the types of emotions I was feeling when I was reading it, because it was that far future, felt a little large Cosmere spoilery, but overall, it was well done. It is worth the time and worth the read if you are okay with that far future setting. Cool world building, lots of character growth, magic system that makes sense in the Cosmere the way we know things work, and in a way, the fact that this book made me feel a little sad and disappointed matches my feelings about it being the last one of the secret novels of the year of Sanderson. It's making me really look forward to Stormlight 5 next year. I hope this review was helpful, and I'll see you back here for more videos. Bye.